Patrick Johnston chronicles the Vancouver Canucks for the province in PostMedia, and he joins us on Thursdays. We will start you with the Surrey Mitsubishi poll question. Would tonight, Patrick, be a statement win for the Vancouver Canucks?
Oh, man. Oh, Tuesday night, my dear colleague Ben Kuzma described it as a danger game. And I had to laugh. I was like, yes, are they all danger? I mean, yes, they are, Ben. They're all danger games. Is this a statement game? Yes, they're all statement games.
This is statement with a wink.
Yeah.
Statement. Get it? They did it. They did a statement.
Oh. I think that's the sound of everybody involved with the Vancouver Canucks at this point.
I think there is one person on the planet who thought that statement was a good idea, and I think he happens to own the Edmonton Oilers and the Rexall chain of drugstores.
Here's my question. I'm sorry, guys. It was kind of one of those times. I ran out of time. You end up day carries on. The kids are there, and you get tired. But I was so tempted to write a column saying, "Did Connor McDavid die?"
Right.
3.
Yes.
We support him through this process. You're what? Sitting out 3 games?
Yeah.
Like, what? Knowing where to sit during the game when you're not on the ice? Like, what are we even talking about?
The PTSD of the hold?
Oh, man.
Anyway, is there jam in this game, do you think? Oh. Or do you think that it's muted with the 2 offenders out?
I mean, I don't know.
There's juice. There's jam. How could there not be?
Juice. There'll be some juice. There'll be someone saying, Connor McDavid, you meanie. Or, sorry, Connor Garland, you meanie. You held on to him.
Connor v. Connor violence.
I know J-Pat's worried. And fair enough. And I think that's partly his old, J-Pat comes out of the old dub. And so it's just wired in that something crazy is going to happen. I just don't think we're in that league anymore. I just don't. I mean, people ripped on Elias Pettersson a little bit for his reaction, but I was like, you know what? Most of the guys react that way. It was a surprise. Miller saw it, and a couple of people saw it. I mean, it was a surprise to me that anything actually did happen. Draisaitl getting mad at Garland, I guess, but I don't even know what Draisaitl was mad about. What was he actually mad about?
He's always
very aggrieved. All the time.
Leon, why so pissy? I mean, a prophetic question from Jim Matheson several years ago when they were doing all that losing. I don't know about you, but like Blake and I were really surprised McDavid got 3 games. Like we thought 1-1, 1-2, 2-2, even 2-3, but like that. He got the same number of games as Myers.
Well, then he got to 3. Again, 2 and 3, I would have understood.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they would both get 2. I figured they'd get 1 for the fact that it was a match penalty with 2 seconds left, so that you sit out a game because that's the point, and then another because it's Thursday and it would be nice to cool things. I don't know. But I don't think there was going to be any retribution. I figured they'd be like, oh, it's the second game because you would have gotten an extra game anyway, So it's 2 games, boom. So the 3 for both of them surprised me. Although I guess I can't even remember. I didn't actually bother. Is Myers actually a repeat offender under the rules? I'm not even.
Yeah, you graduate your offenses eventually. I don't know if he is.
that part did throw me off a little bit. But, both of them cross-checked another guy in the head, and that's not what you want. So here we are.
In the wins and loss column, is it possible this team beats the Oilers twice in 5 days, but in the middle loses to one of the worst teams in the entire league? Is that quintessentially this team?
Yeah, and then win 2 big wins 2 Saturdays in a row with 2 horrendous games in between.
Yeah,
I mean, I think we thought last year was real, and I think we had reason to think last year was real. And you come into the season thinking there was going to be progression from that, even if there was turnover in the roster. But the totality of the season has told us the way they have played against the Buffalo Sabres is much closer to who this team is than the nights where they've managed to put it all together and beat some of the league's best teams. Like it's the NHL that happens. One person I have a lot of time for who has worked in the league for a long time says 75% of hockey is luck, and that drives you crazy. it's an exhausting situation with this team right now. The sort of night to night, you don't know what they're going to be. You mostly should expect that they're not going to be very good because that's been the trend. I mean, the JPAT stat on them needing to be 17-0 to come even close to last year's winning record is abysmal at home. I mean, like it's stunning. Last year was a great record. The fact that they have away, it is mind blowing how poor they've been, especially at home. And to me, that is what we need to recognize about this team, and that's why they need to start making changes, I think.
Back-to-back wins anywhere.
Speaking,
I know. Crawl before you walk here. Like, honestly.
Speaking of changes, what is your understanding with where things stand right now with JT Miller and futures?
Yeah, I mean, everyone seems to be waiting for the other shoe to drop. Everyone seems to agree behind the scenes that it needs to happen, that change is necessary for the good of everybody. My impression certainly is that I know that the Hurricanes were kind of mooted out there, and certainly they've made inquiries. I think it comes down to really the prices are not great, and with the Rangers, for instance, it's about retention. What retention means, whether that's on a Miller contract or a Hedl contract, I don't know. But if you start thinking about those terms, like there is some kind of sweetening in the deal that has to happen. And so if you're looking at, say, the Hurricanes and you're flipping a couple guys, well, they will need something back. That's not just Miller, because they have to look at their roster and say, we're already making change. They're missing Jesper Fast. They're already making alterations. They're trying to add someone to that spot that they've lost there. If you move, say, Kotkaniemi and Roslovic, two depth forwards, you're going to need a depth forward. Like, there's just enough sort of bits and pieces there that you're like, okay, but really none of these offers are that exciting. It's sort of mediocre forwards coming back. And, what's the sweetener the Canucks can offer to make it palatable to the other team, even though they are getting a JT Miller that probably is going to be a pretty good player for them, although he hasn't been playing that well here. You think that the change is going to make him better. I mean, the team that's trading for him surely is expecting a player that will benefit from a new home, right? They're not trading for a guy that's been playing as poorly as he has been. They're trading for a player that they believe will flip the switch once he arrives. But they also know that that's the Canucks' problem right now.
Yeah. So let me ask you this then. If the offers are no good, do you subscribe to the theory that Canucks start showing life here? JT and Elias are both going. There is no trade by the deadline, and maybe even no trade in the summer. But start with the deadline. Do you believe in the theory that if the Canucks get on a heater here with JT and Elias,
there's the flaw in the theory. The Canucks get on a heater here.
Understandable, but we have said it many times. Most every team in the NHL is going to get on a hot streak at some point this season. The law of averages is, especially with this talent, that the Vancouver Canucks at some point here are going to rip off 4 or 5 in a row or 7 and 8, something of that order. If that happens over the next month, Patrick, do you see a world where JT is here past the deadline?
Given what I've heard, I don't think so. I think that this is a move that's going to happen sooner rather than later. I found myself wondering that on Saturday night. I'm like, well, that was a pretty good game, and they all looked like they were pulling on the same rope and all that, and then Tuesday happened, and you're like, no.
Let me ask you this then, and we've asked a lot of people this question, and there's been different versions of the answers coming in. Like, will the Canucks lower their price and settle for less in this JT Miller trade, or is the price the price?
Or settle for futures, or accept some degree of future.
And when I say less, I think settling for futures is settling for less because this team does not want to take steps back.
Not even settling for futures, but futures as a component.
Yeah.
I think when things started first really kind of being clear that the trade was inevitable a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I want to say, I had someone say, no, they've accepted that this is a cents on the dollar situation, right? They are not just taking whatever they can get. They are still going to try and get something.
They'll be discerning to some degree, sure, but
yeah, but it's not like, oh, you'll give me a 7th round pick, let's go. Like it's not that, but they know that they're not. They know that the sort of exciting package you would get in normal times, if there were not in the background a story that we still have very little understanding of, to be clear. I mean, we've heard lots of bits and pieces and rumors and ideas, but the actual what it all means. I mean, we're still in the midst. I mean, this is why writing history live is so hard. But yeah, like this is a situation where it's exactly that. Like you're making a deal, you're trying to get what you can get, you're trying to salvage the situation, but realistically, it's not something you're dealing from a position of strength.
So the backstory is the biggest impediment, though, rather than just the goals and assists.
I to be honest, I'm not sure about that. What I mean is that the Canucks have found themselves in this situation for reasons that we still don't quite fully understand. That's what I mean. And the fact, which does influence the overall negotiations, because teams know that the Canucks kind of have to do this. They don't have much of a choice.
Because it's Patrick, and we endeavor to be spicy at some point every week with Pat. Writing history live is so hard. That's your job, bro.
Yeah, but no,
first
we
draft
know this.
Of history, and oftentimes it's rough, and I agree.
Terrible.
You look back
this
sometimes
is why it's hard.
Go,
yeah.
Oh, the wine.
What do we actually know? Not
Media
much, Matthew.
Wine.
Not much.
I can't get over the media wine.
There'll be an Errol Morris documentary about this, and it'll be absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. You know this better than us. We've spent a little time talking about coaching, not just Rick Tocchet and systems and messaging and all of that business. Yeah. And of course, Dad is very disappointed right now in his children. But also from the standpoint of veteran assistant Mike Yeo leaves. Okay, great story. And Yogi promoted, but first time NHL, bench assistant. Ian Clark and him being pushed to the side by Jim Rutherford. And, one of the sage and Tocchet and Foote and their taste for Redwood defensemen. One of the sages on this staff is Sergei Gonchar, one of the guy who's supposed to be a veteran, seen it all, done it all guy. Yeah. I just don't see him all that often, but you're closer to it and around the rink on practice days and whatnot. What is actually the Gonchar arrangement and contribution to this club as an assistant coach?
You're not wrong. I actually found myself thinking, wait, I haven't seen him in a while. And I dig through my memory. I'm sure we saw him before Christmas. Listen, when he was hired, there were a few different things they were going for. One, it's mid-season. It's hard to build out a staff anyway, but he's a guy that had built up a reputation as a smart player, he'd done some coaching, had obviously had some experience there. They approached him, he was approached and said, listen, will you get involved? And he said, yeah, but could we talk about it being in maybe a different kind of role? And there's a reason why he is called the defensive development coach, and he's been called that since the beginning. And essentially the role is, I talked to him very early on, but essentially the role is he's here he's with the team, I should say, usually for a couple of weeks, often on the road. He's based in Dallas. He's got his kids and live there and are going to school and university, as I understand. And I think when he told me when he first had the job, it partly was so that he could be there for his daughter. She was starting university, and when he had been a player, a lot of the time he'd been away, and he wanted to be around and just be the dad that he could be with his kids in their 20s. And so that's it. The other thing too is that it's a job that exists because of modern technology, that he's able to provide feedback even when he's not there. Obviously you're interacting on your phone all the time, and so he's a guy that's sending notes and clips and what have you to the players that he's working with, and And at least, when we spoke, I mean, I haven't talked to him in a while, but, the players would get back to him and they'd ask him, and you would get up in the morning and you could see, whether I think they have a specific app that they're using, a coaching app that they're using, and you can see when things have been looked at, and he would realize that his players were looking at these things like in the morning right away. They'd get up and have their coffee and breakfast and whatever, and they were going over what his notes were from the night before. So, he built a relationship. The other thing, of course, was at the time the Canucks had 3 Russians on the team. So, having a Russian-speaking coach from a cultural standpoint made sense. That was a smart thing to do. So you're right. I mean, I haven't seen him around, but I would expect we will see him again soon. I mean, obviously there's not a ton before the Four Nations starts, so will we see him? I don't know, but certainly he's a guy that's been around, and I mean, as I think I joked to you before, he's a guy that you tend to run in at the beverage station in the press box. He'll fill up he usually gets himself a tea, I think, before he heads back to the management box. So. Yeah,
well,
keep that throat clear.
That is very good learnings in terms of attendance, in terms of apps, and in terms of beverage of choice.
Yeah,
that's
where to
why
find
we
him.
bring you on, Patrick.
Speaking of coaches, he's not one anymore. But what would Ian Clark think of 4 straight starts for Thatcher Demko? Is this and they're kind of
time to get him on a roll?
They're kind of hemmed in here because Lankin is not ready to go after being sick earlier in the week. But is there a risk here, you think?
A risk of injury, or what do you mean?
Yeah, just overextending him this early, 4 straight?
No, I mean, in the end, like, in theory, he's supposed to be basically, back to where he was, even though he had this weird injury with a muscle that doesn't matter to most of us. They need him to play. They need him to perform. He's a guy that he just needs to get in there and keep getting in there. It's the starting pitcher. He has a bad start, you throw him back in there, right? Like, it's just get him back in there, get him going. Tuesday was such an example to me of how he is not back to himself. They didn't lose because of the goalie, because the team itself failed in the third period, but you get a couple saves and that's a win. He bails them out, and he has not been bailing them out. Kevin Lankinen has many nights bailed this team out, and we really haven't seen Demko do that this season at all. So not that they
hasn't changed the game. Yeah.
You want him to change the game. That's exactly the way you put it. Yeah, that's exactly what you put it. Change the game. So yeah, you get him in tonight against this red hot, this angry, furious holding team, and he will undoubtedly rise to the challenge. At least that's what you hope.
All right.
Also, Kevin Lankinen, I briefly chatted with him. Noro went around everywhere.
It's apparently everywhere. You got it.
Yeah, briefly. Yeah, I seem to have had not a terrible bout, perhaps similar to what he had. But yeah, like I woke up
No, but it's everywhere in the city.
It's everywhere.
You think it's the salad?
It's not. Yeah. Well, the culprit, the suspect at the time was the salad. I mean, it's a hand wash. It's a hand washing illness, guys. So I mean, in the end, it's surfaces and things like that. But there were, J-Pat didn't get sick. Chris Faber didn't get sick. Neither of them had salad. So anyway.
Good reporting.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you try and work in a salad now, and look what you get for it.
And listen, normally the salads that they serve, the salads they have the medium meal at Rogers Arena is pretty good, and I'm a big fan of salad, and I'm not shy about that. And I can tell you, in the moment, eating that salad, I'm like, man, this is a disappointing salad. So whether it was the culprit or not, we don't know, but I like to say so because it's just underwhelmed.
Is it still an iceberg base on that salad?
Well, it depends. It depends on what they're making that night.
Oh,
say what you will about the Applebee's.
Sometimes get the butterhead.
They do
or
food
the romaine.
Well. They do food well, man. It was just a mediocre strawberry salad. It was a surprisingly weak salad. So anyway, Kevin Lankinen,
no berries in my salad. Nope.
Kevin Lankinen feeling a lot better. Feeling a lot better, but obviously probably wants another day or two to settle himself. So. Yeah,
I think we're gonna put the salad clip on social.
I think so.
God, I don't know if it was the salad, but because the team eats something different. Like they don't eat the same thing. So the point being was that it was in all kinds of stuff, and poor Mike. I was talking to poor Mike, team services director Mike Brown. Poor Mike Brown, mid-game, said he had to sprint out and find a toilet, and that was the end of everything.
Yeah.
They feed the team, and then the scraps.
Where are you on? Is it endives or endives?
Endives.
Where are you on those?
It was sporadically in the salad, sure.
Yeah.
The bitterness.
They have the sign there on the highway. Is it at Abbotsford or Chilliwack? I think it's Chilliwack.
Chilliwack.
Yeah.
It's heading east.
Right, exactly. What about, is it Radicchio?
Radicchio.
Yeah.
Nice.
Purple. You like that?
Now we're talking.
A little bit of that. Mix in some of that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is Radicchio Rocket? Is that the one that's also called?
In British people call it rocket.
And of course, you can't beat a
really
arugula
exciting
with
finish to
a
the pod
very light oil.
Again, this is the one we're using. Mm-hmm. Join PJ for Salad Talk.
All right. Happy
Always a
dining
pleasure,
there.
fellas.
Mm-hmm. Oilers and vinegar tonight.
There we go.